Hello, welcome to a new episode of Talk Turkey.
Hi Nevşin, we are in a political roller coaster in Turkey nowadays.
As usual, this episode was a long-awaited episode because Turkey enthusiasts are wondering the results of what does the latest election results, what do they mean? And are there any chances for the opposition for the second round, right?
Yeah, and we have been trying to record this in the last few days, but then each time something was happening, and then we were like, okay, let's wait one more day. Let's wait for this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow morning, because it's really like a never-ending story somehow.
Every day a new development. It's really hard to catch up with Turkish politics these days. Literally every hour something groundbreaking for politics is happening. So yeah, here are the first round results. Turkey enthusiasts, they already know the results, but it always makes a sense. It always makes a change how you visualize, and once you see it visually, like the results. So Mr. Erdogan got 49.52% of the votes. Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu got 44.88% of the votes, and Sinan Oğan, the nationalist candidate, got 5.17% of the votes. Muharrem İnce got very little because actually he retreated from the elections, but he retreated like kind of in the middle. Turks living abroad were, voting by then. So back then, so he retreated, but some people had already voted for him. So here is the table.
Yes. Of course, we have been discussing this table, but also how the votes abroad contributed into this table. It's like one of the probably most popular discussions in Turkey and Western Europe before and after all elections in Turkey. At the moment, there's also the second round voting going on. This is the last day abroad. And there are also so many cliche arguments about it, like when you read the newspapers, analysis, or questions coming from European journalists, it's always the reproduction of the same cliche arguments. That's why maybe very briefly, I will explain this and analyze the numbers abroad, and also a little bit of maybe historical background as well, so that they understand what's going on. So if you can see the numbers abroad first, and then the Germany.
These ones? You want these ones? Okay.
Yeah. So, a few points are interesting. We talk about, first of all, 3.6 million registered voters abroad. That's a big number, of course. It's much bigger than actually many voters in some EU countries itself. As far as I remember, I think around 13 of the EU member states have less registered members, voters in their countries. But actually, only about half of them voted. It's of course still important, but half of them voted. And why Germany matters? Because votes in Germany are almost 40% of the votes abroad. This is of course as a result of Germany's unique position in terms of Turkish diaspora. We don't see it here, but the results also differ from one federal state to another. For example, in Germany, in Berlin, Erdogan and Kılıçdaroğlu got almost equal votes. Erdogan is just 0.4% ahead. And this has a lot to do with the type of voters as well. Berlin is much more cosmopolitan. It represents probably better the different colors of Turkey. Moreover, there's also this new phenomenon of growing expat community in Berlin. There are many highly educated doctors, engineers, artists, journalists. So we cannot talk about a single electorate type abroad or in Germany. That's also why in certain countries where the expat community is dominant, like the UK or the US, Kılıçdaroğlu is very popular with around 80% of the votes. Important point about Germany, and this is the case for many Western European countries in general, is about the voter turnout. For the first round, the turnout in Turkey was around 89%, but abroad it was 54%. In Germany, it was 48%. So in Germany, Erdogan got around 475,000 votes. We are talking about at least 3.5 million people in Germany, originally from Turkey. And this figure is not enough to claim that majority of Turks in Germany are pro-Erdogan. Majority of Turks in Germany are apparently apolitical. They don't even go and vote. And 52% didn't vote. And if you also add the ones who didn't even register, the percentage would be a lot higher as well. That's why we should avoid such cliches, and it's the case for many countries. But these are about the numbers. We should also analyze, this is still a big amount, why so many people are still supporting Erdogan in Germany and other countries. First of all, of course, there are socioeconomic reasons connected to where they originally come from and how conservative they are. Secondly, for many of them, we like it or not, Erdogan is still a hero. Some of these people faced with discrimination, xenophobia, and when they saw that Erdogan was speaking up against German leaders, Western leaders, they somehow positioned him as a superhero. And as they don't face with the difficulties in Turkey, Erdogan remains their superhero no matter what happens. And third, and I think it's the really important point, is also regularly ignored the responsibility of Germany and other countries. Because first of all, no doubt that the integration policies in the Western Europe is a major failure. And secondly, and this is really important, Germany is an important center of political Islam. Milli Görüş was established in Germany, you know when? 1967. So when Turkey was more secular, Turkish political Islam movement used Germany and other Western countries like Austria, Belgium, the Netherlands as centers of their activities. And countries like Germany even saw this as an opportunity because there was an understanding that, oh, secular Turks are the main obstacle for democracy in Turkey. And there was this obsession about secular elite, whoever they are, I don't know. But political Islam had a chance to create a very influential network in the Western Europe. On the one hand, they played a major role in development and strengthening of political Islam in Turkey. On the other hand, they reach out to hundreds of thousands of Turks through their religious, social, political, cultural activities. So I don't really understand when Germans are surprised to see that many Turks in Germany are still supporting Erdogan. They've been watching this happening for more than 50 years. It's not just a phenomenon of like 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, if they're surprised now, I mean, there's not much to say, but good morning, Germany, I guess.
Yes, you're right. I think this is a little slightly different in Northern America, like where there are different type of Turkish migrants. But another phenomenon of this election was, so this government started this policy. They're basically, you can buy Turkish citizenship. Like you buy a property costing, I'm not sure about the value now, but say like, I think like $500,000, something like that. If you buy a property like that, you can easily get Turkish citizenship. So a lot of people from Qatar and Kuwait, they bought Turkish citizenship. And they voted in Turkish embassies in Qatar and Kuwait in this election. And there were cases like there are some Turkish journalists there. They're interviewing people who are voting. And we saw like a good chunk of these people, they do not speak even a word of Turkish. They don't even live in Turkey. They just bought a property in Turkey and they're Turkish citizens. And actually in their own countries, there are like no elections. So it's like people were joking, like, look at these people. They bought an experience for voting to vote.
A democracy experience.
A democracy experience, yeah. And of course, they were all voting for Mr. Erdogan at the end of the day. But there is a serious backlash from the Turkish society. People are really reacting to that. People are like saying, okay, like, yes, people can get other citizenships, but it cannot be that easy. You just buy one property, you don't even speak the language, you don't know anything about this country, you don't even reside there, you don't even live there, but then you affect a political decision in this country. So how come this happens? So there was a serious backlash from the Turkish public to this situation. I don't know. This has been an interesting election actually. So let's switch to the new kingmaker nationalists in Turkish politics.
It's also connected, I guess, because all these issues have been also attracting a lot of like nationalist or ultra-nationalist responses as well. So are we seeing a new nationalist Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu for the second round.
Exactly. Yeah, so the leader of opposition, Mr. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, he basically based his campaign on the idea of uniting whole Turkey. Love, this sign was their sign, uniting everyone, Kurds, Turks, Democrats, Dada Didi, a new Turkey, more democratic Turkey, and this and that. But right after the election, right after the first round, he changed 180% in one day. I was literally, I was shocked. I was like, how come? Literally the next day, he changed his facial expressions. No more hearts, this and that anymore. He released his videos banging on the table, saying, "I'm here and I'm gonna change. I'm gonna win this, whatnot." They literally CHP, the leading opposition party, they changed their narrative 180% in a day. So voters are also trying to catch up, and also Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu decided to bring another political actor in the opposition coalition, and he went and talked to. Our viewers know who he is, Ümit Özdağ. He is the leader of the Zafer Partisi, Victory Party. They are staunchly anti-immigrant. They are far-right Turkish nationalist party, Victory Party. Their presidential candidate was Sinan Oğan, who got the 5% of the votes. So Sinan Oğan and Ümit Özdağ, they kept meeting the leaders and the actors of the both sides. Eventually, Sinan Oğan decided he's going to support Mr. Erdoğan in the second round. So he's off the race. But then Ümit Özdağ said, well, this is Sinan Oğan's own decision. We are going with Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. And they made a statement together. There's a protocol. That's Zafer Party, the Victory Party, wanted Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu to sign, and he signed it. There's a common protocol, very interesting. We can get into a little bit of details. While Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu was emphasizing that he was for Turkish candidacy for the EU, he thought when he was racing for the first round, he was saying the EU should be the anchor for Turkey. Basically, Turkey should base their laws and understanding of democracy on the principles of the EU, But in the protocol, actually, we're seeing they backtracked 180%. For example, this EU regulation strengthening the local governments and local governance, this is one of the basic principles. And CHP was promising for that, but now in the protocol with Ümit Özdağ, we're seeing they backtrack 180%. While usually nationalist parties, they are really timid towards strengthening local governance, because then they think then if Kurds are elected in some Kurdish majority cities, then there could be some, I don't know, a more Kurdish dominated politics in these areas, and that could be really dangerous for the unity of Turkey. That's the line of thinking. So that's why they're against it. For example, that's one of the important clauses of the protocol. And of course, migrants, they're saying in the protocol, in a year, in the boundaries of the international law, which is a really broad concept, all illegal migrants will be sent back home. And this is the main promise, basically. Now we're seeing a much more nationalist Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, who's in a coalition with Ümit Özdağ, but the other smaller parties that come from AK Party, basically Deva Partisi and Gelecek Partisi. Now we are hearing some diverse voices from those parties, because they're more in this conservative liberal line. Basically, they don't have much in common with Mr. Ümit Özdağ, and I doubt basically their voters will not be voting for Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu in the second round. And Kurds, of course. It seems like Kurds will not be going and voting for Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu. I understand good chunk of Kurdish population, they're going to continue voting for Mr. Erdoğan in the second round. And the ones who voted for Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu in the first round, most of them will not turn out, basically.
Yes, I think he's sort of playing a very risky game. I mean, either we don't understand the game, or it is so complex and well designed that maybe we don't understand. But it is a very risky one. I mean, I think he counts on the fact that majority of people in Turkey, they are anti-AKP and Erdogan, and I think he still believes that no matter what, they want to change the government and they will vote for him. And then he's trying to reach out to the nationalist part, like 5% of the OAN people, I don't know, 2% of the E party who didn't vote for him in the first round, probably other nationalists on the other side as well. But this is, of course, a risky game and also a very delicate balancing act. Like, how do you gain nationalist voters from day one to day two? And how do you keep at least some of the Kurdish voters as well? So this is going to be very tricky. I think either he will lose big time or he will win because we don't understand the dynamics in Turkey, because that's also possible, because the first round, that's clear that we didn't understand the dynamics, because things are...
Yeah, most of the pollsters, like one of the losers of this election are the polling companies in Turkey. Most of them, they were claiming that Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu could win in the first round, but then there's a 5%.
I mean, the worst case, they were claiming that Kılıçdaroğlu had like 49%, 49.5%.
Yeah.
I mean, they were right, but 49.5%, it was Erdogan. So that's the problem.
Yes. But there is the simple math. I mean, a good chunk of the votes Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu got in the first round were from the Kurdish voters, basically. You know, that are yearning for more democracy at the end of the day, because now AK Party, they have turned, lately more and more nationalistic, obviously, and they're putting a lot of pressure on Kurdish politics and politicians, and even, a lot of political citizens on the other hand. So they were yearning for a little bit more of democracy. So they trusted Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. But now, since Kılıçdaroğlu, backtracked 180%, changed his policies, changed his narrative, Kurds will not be voting for him, I mean, for sure. So
and far left as well, because far left has been supporting him in a very passionate way. I mean, even nowadays, where the motivation is not there anymore, a far left party, the Workers' Party, they have been actually campaigning very actively. I wonder what they will do from...
They are actually, you know what? I was just getting out of the subway the other day in one of the really busy districts, Maslak in Istanbul. Maslak is where the plazas are. So you have the white collared workers there, So I was just entering the subway and I saw Turkish Worker Party's people. They were handing leaflets and telling people to vote for Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu in the second round. That's important, Taraddi. But yeah, Ümit Özdağ, I mean, he's anti-immigrant. He's anti-Kurdish, basically. And of course, he's anti-left. He's like a typical far right politician, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, pick a Belgian politician. Who would he resemble? Or...
Well, probably the far-right Flemish Nationalist Party. Something
like that, right? Yeah. So he's that type. I mean, we'll see. I mean, some say, some analysts, they say that actually Kılıçdaroğlu now understood he cannot win in the second round. So he's prepping himself for after the elections. Because if he loses, then there would be disturbances in the CHP, and some groups in the CHP would push the party to go to a congress, and they would try to take the hold of the party. So I think some people think this is a move to basically calm the far nationalists, the left nationalists in CHP down. He changed his narrative to basically hold the reins within the CHP. So that's and CHP is such a party. It's a very old party, very traditional. There are different wings within CHP. Each of them have their own strengths and everything. It's not really easy to keep balance within the CHP. It's one of the most complex parties, I think, not only in Turkey but also in Europe. So he's actually prepping himself for after the elections. That's one of the other theories.
But I mean, there are so many all these theories, also conspiracy theories. But the main reason is, again, we are coming to one point: the lack of transparency in politics. I mean, same with Erdogan-Sinan Oğan agreement. We don't know how they agreed, why they agreed, what's going to happen, what will be his position. And again, here now, we don't know the dynamics. We don't know why they are deciding. I mean, he's claiming that this morning be the interior minister, for example. But then we see the agreement between the parties and we don't see it. So I don't know, there are things behind the doors And that's still, I think, a major obstacle for democracy as well, because nothing is really transparent. So this is going to be a main challenge, I think, for the future as well. But maybe as a last point, we can also review the numbers as well, because we have seen the results of the first round, but actually not this one. This was
not this one
for Germany, but the one about the number of votes. Yes.
This one. Okay.
Because in this one, I think it is easier to see rather than the percentages. The difference between Erdogan and Kılıçdaroğlu is 2.5 million. So, of course, the entire calculation is about, for example, Oğan and İnce voters. There are invalid votes, and considering all those points, actually, the difference is not so big. The turnout was high, but then the second round, we don't know if it will increase or maybe it will decrease. And that can happen from both sides as well, because Erdogan may also have difficulties to motivate the voters to go back to ballot boxes and vote for him again too, because many AKP voters, they believe that it's done anyway, he's winning big time, so there's no need. So that's why I'm still, in a way, open to surprises. I know that it's not a big possibility, but I wouldn't be totally surprised if we have a different result, because, I mean, even a change in the turnout 2 or 3%, it may mean already like a few percent difference. So that's why we need to be watching this still carefully. Still, the major challenge will be for Kılıçdaroğlu, I think, motivating people to vote for him. First of all, the ones who voted for him in the first round, and then now in the next, I don't know, like 3-4 days, reaching out to the nationalist voters and convincing them that he is actually also the nationalist one. He's not only left, he's also nationalist, he's also liberal, he's also Islamist, he's everything. So he's sort of offering a big plate and giving something as some sort of cookie to everyone. So let's see whether this strategy is going to work. And of course, securing the ballot boxes will also be important, because opposition was promising that it will work very well, the system is there and all. But we have found out after the first round that around 10% of the ballot boxes actually, they didn't really have opposition people. So this time they've been working better, but then after today's agreement with the nationalists, I'm not sure everyone within the opposition alliance will be so motivated to go there for securing the ballot boxes. So it's going to be another challenge. But as we always say, it's Turkey. We can always expect the unexpected. So I think it's very difficult to say that this is over already for the elections.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you talk to people on the street, so it's like, for the opposition voters, basically, it's their feelings are very volatile. One day something happens, they're like, "Oh, this is finished. We can never win." The other day something else happens, they're like, "Yay, we're winning." So it's like a really, like a, as you said, roller coaster of the feelings of the opposition voters. But on the other hand, for the Erdogan voters, it's like more stable. They really trust in their leader. They really believe in their leader, and they're like, you know what, he's going to win no matter what, because he's the greatest leader ever to exist on the face of the earth. So there's that connection between the Erdogan voters and Erdogan. So
That's
it's like,
superhero perspective.
Yeah. I mean, he's their superhero, like it or not. I mean, there is that. But with Kılıçdaroğlu and the opposition voters, it does not. You know, such a connection does not exist.
Yeah, it's usually like, oh, we vote for him, but oh, maybe we don't like him. Oh, we don't like him, but we have to vote for him. It's like so many confused voters.
Yes, there is that. But yeah, you know, I mean, we'll see. No matter what, so it is like it's a semi-free and a fair election, basically, atmosphere in Turkey. There is also that it's not a, you know, there are a lot of, so Erdogan controls most of the media, the government media, you know, TRT, I mean, the public broadcaster, TRT, basically is controlled by the government. So it's much easier for Erdogan to transmit his messages, to send his messages, to say whatever he likes and everything. And it's harder for opposition to explain themselves to the voters. Of course, I mean, there is that. And also on digital media, since they have the money and the resources, they're really strong on digital media too. I mean, YouTube, Twitter, literally, they're kind of ruling these digital media, basically, digital media also. So there is that. It's not really easy for the opposition. I don't know. It's not really easy, but we'll see in a few days what happens.
Yeah. And I think maybe the last point, when we say that it is not fair, I'm not sure if everyone understands the environment as well, because it's also beyond the fairness. The environment is very difficult, of course, for opposition even to campaign, or for people to speak up their mind, because if you're in the opposition side, or if you're a journalist, it's much more complicated if you're trying to do your job, if you're not pro-government. So that's important as well. It's not only about mainstream media, but even through the alternative channels, there is still at least some sort of self-censorship, because people know the consequences of harshly criticizing the government as well.
Exactly. No, there is that. I mean, it's interesting. Like there are some red lines, but it's hard to know what is a red line and what is not sometimes, you know.
Yeah, they're shifting as well, those red
They're shifting.
lines.
You tweet something, nothing happens. You tweet something irrelevant, police comes and arrests you, basically. It's really hard to know. But people adapted. I mean, people on digital media, people can be really critical of the government. They adapt somehow, you know. So people the thing is, so everybody's in their own echo chamber. So Erdogan also built this system, very polarized society. Everybody's in their own echo chamber. So I do my YouTube, for example, but none of the AK Party voters are watching my channel. So I mean,
maybe a few % just for trolling purposes.
You know, like he doesn't even care. You do your own thing, and the opposition watches you. Who cares? You know, it's like that. But as long as you cannot reach the other side, you cannot change minds. You cannot. You know, everybody's in their own space, basically.
Well, we'll see. Probably we'll be analyzing the results of the second round next week.
We will be, no matter who wins.
Take care till then.
Yes. See you guys.